Hi everyone, morning here. So today we are going to do one of the live coffee sessions with our invited speaker Vishranth from Esper on the enterprise mobility. So before I invite our guest to come out today, let me slightly to share with you what will be our today's topic. Our today's topic will talk about the growth hack business in the current time. To write on the Big IT 2020 virtual events today and tomorrow, we will be one of the exhibitor in the virtual events this year. So to write on these virtual exhibitions, we are going to have this webinar to our honorable guest with Esper. I'll be inviting him to come in later to talk about how the growth hack on the business in the current time. What will be the current time means right now is, as everyone may be known, that the global economy is going to be historic turbulence due to the business shutdowns and unexpected disruptions for the many impacts spread of the COVID-19. Given the wide ranging of the impact COVID-19 is having on the life of the individuals and also the operations of the business, no doubt we are now definitely in the midst of crisis itself, and most of the country has most of the country is start easing up the lockdown measure, but nevertheless is still in, for the firms itself, is still a lot of difficulties and important decision to make in order to respond to the changes of this pandemic for these unforeseen and lasting consequences. So today, I would like to bring up this topic again to have a coffee sessions with our premium guest here, Vishranth from Esper. Let me give you a bit introductions about Vishranth. Vishranth is a thought leader in the domain of the enterprise mobility and also information technologies. He has been spending the career about 22 years in the technology transitions and also assisting different kind of vertical industrial customers solve their complex business and technology challenges. He has actually recently joined the Esper, which we are our principal partners as a director and head of the sales partnership for the APAC and Oceanic region. But looking back to his past experience, he has been working in the Samsung enterprise mobility and also been working on to many years of experience in conceptualize and execute the enterprise channel go-to-market by enabling different car technology distributors, SI and also software vendors. So with the cloud emerging and big transition of the technology, I think IoT will be one of the topics, and also big data will be one of the big topics to talk about in managing the growing of the devices, and especially Android devices and also the smart devices. So not to wait further, let me bring in Esper Vishranth to join us today. Welcome, Vishranth.
Yeah, hi Jen, how are you doing? Great to have you.
Yeah, thanks. Good to have your time today here.
Really appreciate calling me here. It's an absolute pleasure to be part of your session today. Thanks for the introduction, Jen. Really
thanks. Do you want to make a quick introductions about what is Esper to everyone else here, and also to get a background of the Esper, what is Esper doing to our audience here?
Yeah, great. I think thanks again for the opportunity, and very glad that we are partnering with SYNDES for business relationships in both in Asia Pac as well as the Oceanic region. Wonderful opportunity. I think we have a great association. I think that we can look forward to. Just an introduction, as Jen said, I head the sales for Esper for the APAC region. Esper is a tech startup company. We started in 2017. With a focus of managing the fleet of Android devices, which are probably in different form factors. It could be tablets, smartphones, the traditional form factors, and now shifting on to mobile POS, kiosks, IoT, as Jen has pointed out. Right, we are slightly different from the traditional MDM platforms in a way that our focus is on DevOps. As you all reckon, DevOps is a growing concept in the software industry right now. We want to get that same concept into the hardware management as well. So simply put, DevOps is basically enabling both the developers and the operation team come together, moving away from the vertical integration to a parallel integration. So what I mean is to be able to continuously develop, build applications, deploy them on the field, and monitor them, and also test them regularly. All this is happening parallelly, not in a traditional vertical way. So that's our focus. With that, we built a platform, and we're able to actually onboard several customers in different segments of the industry. We've seen customers in education, logistics, healthcare has been taking a lot of prominence in the recent times thanks to pandemic. Right, healthcare is actually getting a lot of attention, and rightly so. The segment is adapting a lot of digital technologies in terms of keeping up to speed with the norms that we have from social distancing and so on and so forth. And the traditional segments like banking and manufacturing are obviously also increasing their digitization efforts. So with that opportunity, I think we are able to see a great big opportunity for players like Esper in the market to able to really control the devices, the fleet of devices which are deployed, whether, as I said, a smartphone or to a kiosk, to an IoT device, and remotely manage this. By the way, the benefits that it translates is really reducing the number of resources in an organization that are required to manage these devices, and also be able to continuously be able to control the devices remotely, so that key actions can be taken, right, with minute by minute, with any turn of event basis the device telemetry. So that is in short, I think, what we're doing. Yes, happy to again share more insights as we discuss further, Jen.
Yeah. Okay. As I mentioned just now, given the wide-ranging impact of the COVID-19 itself, the pandemic itself actually impacted. I think coming to today's result, I think it's more than 3 million of people in the worldwide itself. So yes, no doubt everyone, either on the individual or the business, we are all get impacted. So in putting in this way into the business, how do you see that to think that the business to adapt to this? Because of the pandemic itself, a lot of new norm phenomena actually coming up. How do you think the business itself actually to adapt in the new norm phenomena? And also, how should we respond to the current changes in the operation?
Right, I think that's an interesting question. In fact, we've just about 8 months into the pandemic, right, worldwide. It's not affected one single country, it's there everywhere. So fundamentally, there is a big shift in the way organizations are working towards fighting this particular pandemic. The first and foremost is obviously because of the social distancing. Most of the organization resources, employees are all confined to 4 walls from what it used to be a traditional office situation to a working from home environment. So different segments have adapted the digital transformation very effectively. I think in the first couple of months there was definitely a struggle to see how the business continuity can continue, but after that I think the things have started really coming to normal, especially because of the digital adaptation, right? I would in fact say that the digital transformation has been very significant in some segments, like for example education, right, in retail, right, and maybe food and beverage, the restaurant management companies like those verticals are those I think really have picked up the digital transformation very well, so that the continuity is almost at the levels of pre-COVID now, right? And we have seen a great adaptation even moving forward. So as you reckon, Jen, the pandemic is here to stay, at least for what we see foreseeable. Q2 is something that we see that there could be a possible worldwide vaccination and so on and so forth. So it's another struggle for at least about 7-8 months that we need to adapt this work from home culture, social distancing norms, and so on and so forth. So if you had to really pick up one particular segment, let's look at education, how they've transformed, right? Students, right from the K-12 schools, the higher education, the colleges, they've all now confined to home and adapted to digital learning. This has never happened before, and so many students, college students, school children, and they've of course been exposed to digitization, digital working, remote learning, digital learning, and so on and so forth before, but not to this extent that they have to be totally dependent on it. So in a way that two things really help them. The schools and colleges have really put on an infrastructure to really communicate with them by way of the Zoom calls, the Google Meets, and all those communication tools, right? And yes, it is not one way, right? The school cannot impose just the tools, but even at the student level, they need to have the digital tools to really be adapt to and learn the digital tools faster. So what has really helped is, if I had to take educational sector, there are three components to it. One is the device. The device could be a computer or a tablet or a smartphone, right? As you reckon, more and more tablets have become the norm, more than the PCs, the traditional PCs, because of the form factor that they have, a very small form factor, easy to adapt. And the second part of it is the application itself. The application, which is the collaborative tools like learning management software that education institutes have quickly adapted. And the third and the last one is the device management control software, right? Which is, I think, very critical to the entire function. Most often, organizations like education institutes do take this as last priority, but to me it is fundamentally the key priority. The reason being, when you're giving tablets to students, right, students are not actually as much as evolved as much as probably office workers who have been trained on so many different applications. So to ensure the tablets are working for a purpose, which is education, right? It's very important to have a software which can come from companies like Esper to really, one, control the applications that they want to use. For example, you could restrict students from deploying applications like WhatsApp, Facebook, which is not required for education purpose, right? And again, restrict them for downloading some games and so on and so forth. So the complete application management, what the students should use, what should not they be using, right, is something that is governed by the MDM software. The second important aspect is, again, students are just getting introduced to a hardware and a software usage in such a great prominence, right? So in case of there is a issue with let's say the hardware or the application, the students are at home and the IT administrators of the college are in their home as well. So how does one diagnose? This is where again the software like an MDM comes handy to remotely take a view of the tablet, control the tablet, and also diagnose, take the bug reports in case the application has got some issues and things like that. Without this kind of a control, just imagine there are thousands and thousands of students and application goes bad on a particular device or hundreds of devices. It's not possible to have someone to go attend to it in the current norms. So that's again the MDM plays a crucial role. The last but not the least is a going feature called app analytics, right? Again, students, while they are in the digital classrooms, they are open to working with several applications that you have given as learning tools, right? So the MDM's one of the key features is app analytics, where you could analyze which student is using which app, how long is he using. For example, you have let's say YouTube, you have let's say Khan Academy. So you pick up a student and say, okay, your child has spent 7 hours in the last 1 week in YouTube. So probably he's using YouTube to learn more education content. Another student could have used Khan Academy. So these app analytics can be taken out from the device and shared with the parents for them to ensure that the child is enhanced with the interest that he has. Again, the MDM performs that basically analytic function since it's always communicating with the device and pulling out a lot of telemetry. So that's one way, Jen, how a segment like education has really adapted to this change. So even despite unpredictable probably nature of not being able to go to school in the next about 7-8 months, I think students are well versed into the education system without having a break in the country.
Okay, I do understand that Esper actually working a lot with the education segments, and also thanks to the Esper solutions, due to with your MDM system itself, putting in for education, we are not talking about just 1 or 2 students, we are talking about several schools. They easily go down to the thousands of the tablets out there. So with all these kind of features, I strongly believe that it actually helps to manage the device, and or perhaps you can share with us how you were also able they get the learning content inside the tablet itself, inside the device itself. If you say that everyone is study from home right now, so we all forced to come into the e-learning era. So from the teacher side, how they distribute the content to the students through everything is from cloud right now. There's no way to be each other. So how they manage to distribute the content fully from the digital channels.
Right. So yeah, I think that's something which is again very, very critical in this period where you're not able to meet face to face. So that's where the MDM comes into play, right? As I said, there are three large components for digital learning, right? One is the device itself, and second is the learning management solution which the education institutes have in form of an application. The study material, the content, everything is digital, and to marry these two, right, to put together to get these applications directly onto the tablet, and it's not one time, right? As you reckon, it is a continuous effort. There's some new syllabus which gets updated on the next semester. There is a new application which gives you much more digital content for the students, and so on and so forth. So to get a synergy of pushing the applications, managing the applications onto the student's device, that's where the MDM comes into play, right? You could have a platform of Esper, for example, have all the private applications as well as Google Play Store applications loaded onto the particular console of Esper, and from there the administrators of the education can really push the content into several tablets. It's not limited to 1 or 2, but you could push it onto thousands and thousands of tablets in minutes, right? So whether the tablet is either on broadband or it is on 4G, seamlessly this can be pushed onto their tablet. So once the application is fully there in the device, because the devices are of different form factors, different OEMs will have different OS UI by themselves. So you could reckon there could be a different functioning of the device in different students. So to monitor all that, again the MDM comes into play. Really see, okay, if I push this application, how is the tablet performing? Is it taking a lot of memory? Is it actually the battery is performing to the best? Is the CPU utilization going above, and things like that? So these are the telemetries that which will, again, the MDM software will pull back and post it to the enterprise administrator of the organization for him to really monitor a particular push of the application. In case there is an issue on a set of tablets, what he could do is establish a remote control view of the tablet sitting in, let's say, for example, the student is in Bangalore and the administrator is in Malaysia. He could establish a secured VPN connection right from his home to the student's tablet, take a view of the tablet, even take logcat reports, the bug reports, and so on and so forth, so that he'll be able to fix the application and push it back. Right. So that's how I think fundamentally the entire process of digital learning is actually getting really optimized by using a device, a learning management software, and to control both a mobile device management software, which can be provided from companies like Esper.
But leveraging on what your Esper having those kind of features inside the solutions, let's put back to a different vertical industry, because this kind of pandemic challenges everyone is in. I would say, because some of us and almost everyone is quite a panic situation. Some of the business itself, even I'm not sure about how's your side, but at least within Malaysia, most of the small and medium enterprise, they are quite struggling, especially during the lockdown period. And some of them, they do actually seriously they close down the business.
Right.
There have been certain statistics, but unfortunately, I do not have the statistic right now. Some of them actually close down the business. Some of them even shrinking down the business. But of course, in the other way around, some of the business they do expand as well. I do heard that some of the industry, especially the tourism industry, they cannot work out, and they went to they quickly switched to the retail business. So, but actually, out of their innovation, they managed to get out of the way during the lockdown period. So, if we putting back to this entire solution and the functionalities, we put it into the retail industry, how do you see that it would help to in the business expansion or the business innovation throughout the digital channel itself, especially in the retail. Because for Malaysia statistic itself, because Malaysia have been doing the lockdown during almost 3 months from the March to the May, and basically according to the latest statistic itself, Malaysia retail statistics basically is gone for the Q2 in 2020. So I think certain solutions, especially the cloud solution, were very, very core and important to help them to innovate the entire business, to work virtually and reach out a lot of consumers out there through the digital channels. So with this, how would you think that Esper can help them to further enhance their business during this challenging time?
Absolutely. I think, it's not, as I said, not just one industry. A lot of industries are actually transforming from the way they were pre-COVID to the current, adapting to the current pandemic situation. Let's talk about the food and beverage industry, right, which is a large portion of the travel and tourism, which is integral part of that, right, and entertainment industry as well. Right. If you look at both the high-end restaurants and the medium-sized restaurants, right? So during the lockdown, obviously there was a strict lockdown. All of them were closed, and the business was, as you said, a lot of restaurants have shut down the business. But as the lockdowns slightly got eased and unlocking happened, we've seen that in India, we've seen that in the rest of the APAC region, that the restaurants have started coming up in opening up the counters for customers. But immediately we saw that the customers were not willing to visit the restaurants because of the scare of inflicting the COVID from the external environment there. So they have adapted in the digital tools in a couple of ways. For example, we've seen large installations in India specifically with couple of restaurant chains of digital menu to start with, right? Customers, when they go to the restaurant, from having a hard menu. Now it is all changed to digital menu, right? The customers are either given a tab or through their smartphones they're able to use a QR code, right, and see the menu, so that there is absolutely no contact with any hard surface in the restaurant. So that's one aspect, how they are changing a contactless experience, so that there is a minimal risk of contracting the virus. The second aspect is, again, a lot of companies, a lot of hoteliers have adapted kiosks to have the menus displayed, to conduct customer satisfaction surveys. Even for payments, they've started been adapting kiosks. A kiosk is fundamentally a small device, which could be, let's say, 10-inch device, and those are placed at the restaurant for the customers to see the menu, which can be totally unmanned. Now, where Esper can come in this is that these kiosks fundamentally basically are deployed in the hotel, and you don't expect someone to really be there taking care of that device all the time, because then it doesn't really help the serve the purpose of the hotel, because the cost is eventually going to increase. So these are essentially unmanned large kiosks, which is an Android based operating based kiosks which are deployed there. And even the hoteliers, you reckon, they're not so tech savvy. So we have deployed these kiosks in a range of hotel chains in a way that the kiosk totally comes deployed with a particular policy that a customer wants, with a particular application. So minute the kiosk is deployed in the hotel or the restaurant, it comes pre-configured with certain applications. So you don't have to have the team of hoteliers to really push the applications, load the applications. So it comes with a pre-configured application, and minute you put it on, it's ready to go. So that's where we call this a zero-touch deployment, right? With the help of Google Zero Touch, we are able to actually get these devices pre-configured. The second aspect is, again, managing these devices, right? So these devices, again, when I say devices, it's a kiosk. The hotel staff cannot manage this because they are fundamentally in serving the customers, so they do not have so much of IT resources. So all these devices, let's assume, I'm going to name few companies, like a company called 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏. They have about, to my mind, about 2,500 restaurant chains spread across various parts of India. Now, just if someone has to really man these devices, that's a lot of money, right? Especially at these times, the restaurants are not making too much of profit. So what 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏 Nation has done is putting these kiosks and ensuring that a platform like Esper to manage these devices remotely. So when I say manage it remotely, the entire aspect of the device, you could create some intelligent alerts to the administrator centrally. The alerts could be Wi-Fi alerts, battery alerts, or Bluetooth alerts. So if let's say a device is deployed and the battery of that particular device is running down, you could create an intelligent alert in a way that if the battery comes down below 10%, you should be notified, so that the IT administrator sitting far away can instruct the hotel staff and say, hey, this battery is running down. Either you have to plug it in, or probably you need to shut it down, so it's going to go off. So please take necessary action. So just imagine thousands and thousands of devices like this. You'll never know which device is actually functioning properly, which device is always connected. So with intelligent alerts from devices like this, which are unmanned devices, right, one can really take quick actions to ensure that the device is up and running, right? So those functions can definitely, be controlled, and the cost of doing this is come down drastically, instead of someone actually going and attending to that device, right? And these days it's so difficult to even actually have staff going out of their home and attending to this. So one, they're able to smoothly run their business using these contactless digital terminals. The second part is obviously the cost of running these devices has also come down drastically by using an MDM software.
Okay, so putting back to the different aspect itself, let's say, because we have been talking a lot from the how the business go through the digital channels, go to the consumer and open market wise. So putting back, let's say, we put an aspect slightly back to here. We talk about remote working. Let's say, you see, right now, at least I think we're still so grateful because Malaysia is considered managed to control the pandemic quite well. Basically, our activities right now, outdoor activities, is considered quite back to normal. Although we still have to follow certain SOP, but in comparing to India itself, I believe you're still working from home, and including your colleagues as well. So from that itself, there's no choice. We need to admit one of the reality here. Everyone have to start to adopt on the remote working and adopt on the technology in how to conduct the training, how to conduct the meetings through the cloud and through the online. And I even seen many of the layoff during this short-term time. I mean, unfortunately. So how do you see that? What kind of digital strategy that you would recommend by leveraging on your experience in all the enterprise mobility past experience? How do you see that the organizations can find a better way to interact with either to their employees or to their customers to work virtually while also able to cutting down their costs? What will be the available strategy that you can recommend them to adopt it in order to shape the future jobs, the way of future, how to perform it better, and even how to shape the entire way of to reaching out the market through the virtual channel right now or digital channels right now? Yep.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question, Jen. So the things that I think we are at a stepping point where the digital device explosion is unstoppable now, right? It is definitely growing, and with COVID coming in, it's only going to be enhanced, right? Probably we are advancing about 2-3 years, of digital adaptation to now. The reason I'm saying this is, as I've just given you a couple of case studies in education, in food and beverage industries, in retail, things are really changing. The way I we look at in Esper, the digital transformation happening is one at the employee side to increase their productivity or reduce the cost by using the devices like smartphones and tablets, right? You look at sales people who are actually going out and meeting customers before COVID, right? With the use of tablets and phones, definitely their productivity is far enhanced, right? I can give you a couple of examples of customers back in India in the banking sector. So that typically in the banking sector, any customer that you onboard, you need to do something like an 𝗍𝗗𝗏, know your customer. So you need to take his social ID, which we have it in India, which is the Aadhaar ID, right? And digitally verify that. So with the absence of a digital tool like a tab, earlier a sales executive of a bank used to take about 3 days to onboard a customer, right? Because he used to take a physical form and then fill it up and take his Aadhaar ID, which is a social security ID, verify it in the central server, and then go back to the customer. Sometimes the customer might give a wrong ID or a misspelled ID. So back and forth, it used to take 3-4 days to open a single bank account. Now today, a bank account can be opened in just about half an hour, right? All this is possible because of the digitization tools that these customers have adapted, right? So it's only going to enhance. So it started with the private banks, now it's going to the public banks, now there are cooperative banks, there are microfinance companies. So the entire banking sector is now getting into digitization. So that's one aspect of how digital tools have really transformed the working of the sales team who are in the field, right, trying to onboard the customers or trying to sell something to the customers. The second aspect is look at it from an after sales support executives who are in the large manufacturing organizations who are supposed to be attending to customers basis their call sheets that have been raised. Again, a lot of companies that I know in auto, in traditional FMCG, in probably again some large consumer durable companies are all equipped with a tablet or a smartphone, where while on the move they are able to assign tickets to them basis the geolocation in which the particular after sales executive is present, and the nearest person is assigned to the task, so he can go to the customer and complete the task and close the task within the digital tool, not having to report or having to do any calls and physical calls to report the completion of task. Everything is assigned digitally and it is completed digitally, and real time it is tasked. So from a sales and employee standpoint, smartphones or tablets are really helping either increase the productivity or reduce the cost of the deployment for the organization. But the real digitization boom which is going to happen, which is already that we've seen, is in the places of let's say kiosk deployments, the POS deployments, and even IoT deployments, right? So these devices again are becoming very, very popular, as I've given you a couple of examples, like the restaurants, how the kiosk is really helping them reduce the number of staffs, and everything can be actually accessed to the kiosk. Simple thing like a waiter going and offering a menu, that can be there on the kiosk, so the customer need not depend on a waiter coming there. He can order it through the kiosk, and the order goes directly into the kitchen and it is served. So thereby the restaurants are able to minimize the number of people that needs to be attended to customers. So that's one aspect, but there are several segments which are adapting kiosk. So this is one industry, I think this is one segment, which are the single purpose devices as we call. It is doing one single purpose. It's not like a tablet where you have multiple functions like consumer applications, business applications. This one is doing one single application, whether it's a kiosk or a POS, right? The second aspect is again the point of sale material. These are small form factor devices which can be deployed for payment in merchants, right from a small let's say mom and pop shop to a large multi-chain a company like a Best Buy and so on and so forth. Best Buy, 7-Eleven pharmacies, and then you have CVS pharmacies and so on and so forth. These are different applications for this POS. With that small form factor, you could do several functions. The payment function you could be doing, you could even use them in the warehousing and logistics, right, to scan inward material and outward material and so on and so forth. The other category again is the rugged and handheld devices, which are for a specific industrial use. Something like rugged tabs from Samsung, Tab Active and Xcover, right? These are for doing same functionality of a tab, but in a different environment like oil and gas, environment like harsh environments. So these specific devices are again becoming very popular because of the industrialization which is happening. And last but not the least, Jen, the IoT devices. Even these IoT devices, millions and millions of them are coming up, because IoT devices is basically eliminating the deployment of manpower to do some repetitive tasks. Simple thing, let's say a truck from a warehouse, let's say production plant to a retailer. A truck is moving and you want to monitor the temperature of the truck. A simple temperature device which is deployed on the truck, right, which will give you throughout the route the temperature, whether the optimal temperature, let's say an ice cream consignment is getting shifted, is to be monitored. A simple device like an IoT can monitor that and see if any specific drop of temperature and so on and so forth. Now all these devices, as you will know, whether it's a tablet or a mobile phone, whether it's rugged devices or handhelds, whether it's POS or kiosk, or even the IoT devices, need to be controlled remotely, right? If you have someone to go physically attend these devices, it doesn't really give that kind of an economies of scale, right, for you to deploy those devices. So given these kind of deployments happening, that's where Esper will come into play of monitoring these devices, deploying these applications onto the devices, right? Continuously taking the telemetry of the information of these devices and giving it to the IT team, giving it to the developers, application developers, for them to take necessary action. So that's where I think we see a huge opportunity both for the organizations to deploy devices and also companies like us to ensure that we manage the information from these devices and pull it for the enterprise administrator to take control of these.
Okay, writing on what you have just shared with us with the past multiple vertical industry right here, I would like to bring in another questions here. You see, over the last 10 years, the company in most industry actually dramatically changed to their business environment because of the shift of the global economy itself. So the growing of the operations had changed into the workforce demographic. Basically, they go more to the mobile workers and diversifying over the years over experience and also changing their initiative to attract the new talents, of course, also changing the entire.
Okay, I guess Jen was looking to ask me in terms of the device penetration. As I said, the digital, I would say, form factor have been evolving over a couple of decades. Initially we've seen desktops as traditional form factors, right? Then it moved on to the laptops, and in the last about decade or so, we've seen the form factors of tablets, phones. Yeah, sorry, Jen, we've lost you for a moment there.
Sorry, my line breaking here. I just dropped out from this.
So I guess you're talking about how the form factors have changed, right? So if I had to see a couple of decades back, the way the form factors have changed. Initially, we started with desktops as the key, computing devices in either office or at home. Then we moved to laptops, which is again slightly more mobile. But now you see more and more users moving away. Desktops are almost become redundant now, and it's almost either laptop or the form factors like a tablet or a phone. And moving forward, as I said, right, you will see form factors which are even much more convenient for people to use. It could be a single purpose device. Look at the way the smartwatches, for example, are coming out. So these again are powered through an Android OS or an iOS OS and so on. So the smartwatch itself gets a lot of functionality that probably our phone today is doing, which is again very convenient, handy, right? You could just wear it and keep going. One is taking care of the various health parameters. Then when it is useful to track your vital parameters, like we've seen even smartwatches taking the ECG reading and sending it to doctors and so on and so forth. Having a good probably teleconference, right? You don't need a phone anymore. You could just while you're driving, you could have your smartwatch on and then have a teleconference, brief video call and so on and so forth. So the way the form factors are moving, right, to smaller and smaller form factors. So you reckon, right, that this is just going to explode into millions and millions of devices, right? So that's where I think as a management company, we come in to how do we enable these devices? How do we ensure that all of them are under the purview of a business organization, right? Just imagine a company which is, let's say, 100,000 employees. The employees will have a phone, smartphone, will have a tablet, right? Will have a smartwatch, and IoT device or some kiosk. So all these devices, right, has to be managed from a security standpoint, managed from an application standpoint, managed from a let's say try to rectify them in case there is an issue or diagnose. So these functions have to be necessarily done. Otherwise, you're not able to actually take the full control of device and full utilization of this device. So that's where a software like Esper can come in to give one single platform to have all these devices managed for the organization, so that the administrators in the organization can take some meaningful actions, key actions wherever it is required to block some security intrusions, right? To ensure that the applications are always up to date, to ensure that they're able to control the device remotely, to diagnose in case the users have some issue on them.
All right. Okay. I think it has becoming an hour for today's. Thanks a lot for all your sharings today regarding by the business wise, although by the mobility wise, especially to share with us what Esper can do in assisting all the business, enhancing their reaching out to the out there, to the e-learning industry, as well as to work across to the mobility. So allow me to conclude the session today. So basically, I think Esper is coming from one of the mobile device management solutions, which has been successfully deployed in several industries, especially in the education. When come to this pandemic time, when everyone have to sit at home and no choice, we need to work from home, we need to study from home. Smart device has eventually become one of the very core important to every one of us, including the children or the kids. So I think when come to managing a multiple smart device out there, regardless it's a tablet or smart device or smartwatch, solution itself is becoming more important in managing the assets from the company point, as well as to push in the relevant apps to be used for the different kind of scenarios. Same goes with to pushing in the relevant content over the cloud itself. So I think Esper has successfully done a lot of footprints in APAC. This is not limited to India itself, including in Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and so forth. So I'm great to have you today as our previous guest. But I think we are coming to an hour. I think it will be great if we can come up in another session to share more what Esper can do, especially what you have mentioned about the IoT side. Because according to my personal study, IoT, especially sensor-based, is come to more and more important. One of the use cases that you have mentioned just now is actually draw my attention here. It's about the sensors, which is the temperature sensor. But what I actually think that to possible we can have another session in sometime later, that is to talk about what is the smart agriculture. I recently come and understand there is a wording called smart agriculture, where they're actually using a lot of the sensors base of monitoring, including how to sensor the soil, the fields, and even the entire. I believe that definitely Esper would able to work in this industry, which is one of the growing industry in coming time. Yeah. So all right, I think that's all for this session, for this round. Thanks for your time and thanks for your sharings. If anyone here would like to, oh, by the way, sorry, I think we have one of our audience here had left a comment. Georgie Yo, I think he has mentioned that 5 years ago, many businesses are not feeling obligated to integrate into a digital workflow, especially tasks can be performed by hires. But pandemic interestingly forced innovations. So whether we adapt it or that's it. So I think that is where Esper come in to help in the mobility, to help into make sure the entire deployment itself actually can roll out more successfully. And also I think one of the most important thing is to keep the company asset itself, or even the organization asset itself, in more well controlled. And most importantly is everything through the cloud. This is where the CapEx itself can be manageable and even can be under the reducing the cost as well. All right, I think that's all for this time. Thanks, Vishranth, for your time.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for your
thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. All right, thanks everyone for the time. Before I'm actually leaving this room, I would like to share with you. I think I do not have much question here for this round, but if you do have any other questions, feel free to leave it here or leave it to any part of our Facebook or LinkedIn channels, or perhaps you can feel free to drop us any chat question in chat room as well. But I think most important thing I would like to introduce, the coming 2 days, including today or tomorrow, we will be having a booth in a virtual event called 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗧𝗵𝗵 2020. I'm actually share the link here downstairs. Basically, you can just go through the link. I believe my team is going to share out the way to access to log into the link to join in. We have a virtual booth inside. Basically, this is a virtual event to see what's happening inside and what we can share more inside the virtual event here. We have a fantastic booth inside, but unfortunately, I do not have anything I can share for the time being. But just make sure yourself to get into the link below. Register it. It's free of charge. So just get in and join us inside the booth because we have a lot of great prizes to come out. But before I leave the room, I think we have one more thing called, we have an Instagram filter. Well, yeah, we have a very interesting Instagram filter here. We have an interesting Instagram filter. This is the first time we try on the Instagram filter here. No obligation to try it on. If you actually share out to more and more people around you through these social channels, you are entitled to win a great prizes worth more than 10,000 here, and as well as get into our booth to understand what we are doing here. What will be we talk about all the mobility transformations and how to go through the digital channels through the MDM solution here. Wait, I think my team, yes, yeah, we have interesting Instagram filter here. Basically, just have to download the Instagram filter here. Check out our Instagram, SYNDES Founder Instagram here. You can download our filter from there, and by then you can play with this Instagram filter, and make sure you just tag us inside the Instagram live story. Then you stand a chance to win the prizes. Yeah, I think we were giving in, especially these 2 days, we're giving in a lot of attentions, and we will do a random pickup for the winners. Yep. To know more, to stay tuned to our Facebook and LinkedIn channels. I believe my team will definitely share more with you then. All right. Thanks everyone here. Thanks for your time. Thank you everyone. Thanks. Bye.